You are great, America.
All right, council members, we're going to go ahead and stay ahead of schedule. Next before us, we have the Department of Fire and Emergency Medical Services. We have the Director, Mr. Billy Lynch, and the Finance Manager, Ms. Leanne Hagar. And before you begin, Mr. Lynch, with your presentation, are you satisfied with the mayor's proposal for your budget?
Yes, Councilman, we are.
All right, you could go ahead and continue with your presentation.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. And I'd like to point out a couple of people that I have in the audience also. I have tonight with me Assistant Chief Rick White. Rick is a 35-year veteran who is helping me with implementing the Maximus audit. Assistant Chief Larry Walker, who's heading up trying to consolidate our operations section, and Chief Larry Poole, who Larry is retiring and leaving in, I think he told me 4 more weeks. But Larry's been great to help with this, along with Ms. Hager. As I said, it's a pleasure to be here. Ms. Hager's been with the fire department approximately 7 months. She transferred from the Department of Finance. She came along at a great time to put some real coordination and effort into the finance component of the fire department, and she's done a fantastic job. I do want to point out that Rick White, who, as I said, is a 35-year veteran of the Nashville Fire Department, and Rick has really grasped what Maximus came in the consultant firm and brought to the department, and has done fantastic along with his group, his management team, in trying to implement what I consider a very innovative department for down the road. And I also want to take this time to thank the nearly 1,200 members of the Nashville Fire Department who embraced the new challenges presented to them since I agreed to serve as interim director. It hasn't always been easy for them, nor me, but together we are transforming into what I consider one department. If I had to summarize this past 13 months, I would say it's been frustrating, challenging, and rewarding. The frustration came very quickly after I arrived at the fire department, because soon after coming to the department, we as a department dealt with a very embarrassing and humiliating situation that I learned and some of the staff learned had existed for a few years in one of our particular fire halls. In an effort to ensure an unbiased investigation of the situation, I asked the Metropolitan Police Department to handle the investigation, and they helped me and the entire department clear it up, do it quickly, and let's hold the people accountable, responsible. Those that were involved, we dealt with very swiftly, and I want to thank Chief Steve Anderson for his assistance in this manner. Challenging. In order to make necessary changes, and in an effort to encourage the department to embrace new concepts, initially I formed 11 focus groups comprised of upper-level staff from various bureaus in hopes of broadening our views in areas of expertise. I also reached out to internal audit to come in to assist me with the finance, administration, and operations issues. And as I said, we reached out to Maximus Consulting to evaluate our structure and make recommendations to ensure that the fire department was headed in the right direction. At the same time this was going on, I personally visited over 25 fire halls to get ideas and suggestions from the employees for the future. I learned something very interesting at that point. I learned this was a very uncommon practice for management to reach out to its employees. To me, this should have been high on the priority list, and today, due to the efforts of Chief White, Chief Walker, and many others, they now make that a regular practice once a week of going out to departments to talk to their people. One interesting aspect that Maximus brought to the entire department's attention, the people in the fire department were doing their jobs, but as managers, they were looking at their areas like through a straw. They could not see the big picture. One other important part that Maximus and myself found when I reached the fire department, managers' doors were closed and there was very little interaction amongst them. You know, when you look at a fire department, it's not uncommon for people to view the department as having only one mission, firefighting. But this department isn't built on firefighting alone. It is a very large department. An example is Fire Marshal's office. Has 4 major sections. First, development. Look around this city. Look at the building we all went to just the other day. And do not think the Fire Marshal's office, through its development, was not actively involved from day one. When you look at all the development through this city, you look at the work of public works, stormwater, codes, planning, Fire Marshal's office. It's a huge responsibility. Its inspection section handles all facilities in this county. Special events, it's growing every day. Just when we opened Music City Center, the entertainment that evening. And this works close with the entire special events section that involves police, fire, public works, and many other entities. Arson investigation, critical, works very close with the district attorney's office. And people seem to forget this as part of the fire department and its responsibilities. Under Maximus, we have a service section. And one area this section oversees is the fire academy. We must move to strengthen this section to expand where we're becoming more innovative with our instruction. This area needs major beefing up with more support and more advanced management training. And we're going to get there. It's administrative section. This is an area that oftentimes people do not think about. They forget about. Over the next few years, this area's got to take a lead to expand and improve our facilities and our equipment. We must form a partnership with General Services and Stacy Wall in the back, Public Works, Water and Parks on our heavy equipment. We must take a step back and reevaluate the business model that was put in place in this government in 2002 and review the in-kind replacement concept. I mentioned Stacy Wall in the back from General Services, and I want to tell you, General Services does an excellent job working with all of us on our equipment. But we got to change the business model where the big fleet, previously it was purchased through the capital budget, it's now through 4%. And it's just something that we as big departments got to work with General Services to take a look and see if what was created in 2002 needs tweaking, and if so, how do we do it? Facilities. The same management concept must be put in place. Over the last few years, we have been fortunate to replace or remodel 12 of our facilities, but we have more work to do. Again, we must work to develop a long-range plan while working with other metro agencies such as General Services, Finance, and throughout. In the past, as I said, they looked at it through a straw. They looked at it as one mission, and it's a big department. You just heard Charles Shannon, Office of Emergency Management. Charles is a member of the Nashville Fire Department and does an excellent job. But again, it's a coordinated effort with big departments, police, public works, water, and health. We're extremely proud of what our special operations section has done since we moved in this new direction by coordinating with USAR and bringing about a more unified training for not only our employees and OEM employees, but all departments. Saying all this, firefighting is a foundation and where the bulk of the employees are located, nearly 800. You have to maintain a strong foundation while attempting to better utilize our people and materials. As many of you call it EMS or the medical side of the fire department, over the last year, we've responded to 113,000 total calls for various services our department offers. Of that 113,000, approximately 18 to 20,000 were fire-related incidents. 81,000 were medical responses, of which many of our fire equipment respond to. 68,000 required transporting to one of our medical facilities, and another 12,000 for other types of calls. 68,000 transports out of 13,000 requests. And yet, a little over 200 employees exist in this area. You know, when you think back, EMS came to the Nashville Fire Department in 1974. Within the first few years, the number of ambulances on the road was approximately 16. Today, nearly 40 years later, we've made great progress. We're running 19. 40 years, we've gone up 3, covering 533 square miles. With aging baby boomers, such as myself, the overall demand for medical care on the rise, and an ever-growing population, this department, and everybody included, must take off its blinders and be innovative. I'm proud to sit here, and this is one of the rewarding things, to say by July of this year, this department's going to expand its ambulance coverage by adding 3 additional ambulances and no new people. We're doing it through the better use of our staff through the buyout. Now, when I say that, I got to go back to the business model of fleet and talk just a little. We every day have approximately 25 ambulances at our disposal. We run 19 daily. Now we're going to increase 3, 22. It's going to leave me 3 in reserve. And using the business model in existence today and the replacement process, I'm not going to be able to get any new ones. You're the ones going to have to use it along with me and your constituents and my friends, and we need to add them. We got to change that business model. We got to evaluate it closely. In the past, the fire department was divided into 5 divisions with an extremely rigid structure. With our current structure as recommended by Maximus, we'll take these 5 and break it down and consolidate it in 3. We believe that we have broadened the scope of the bureaus and thereby allowing the members within each bureau a better glimpse of the big picture, allowing the lines to blur and more cooperation amongst divisions that once stood firm in their own sole responsibilities. We have strengthened our human resource section. We have strengthened our finance section, and we're giving a hard look at what we're doing with our outsourced ambulance billing services, because that's going to come up in the next year or 2. There's a few other issues that are unrelated, but I do want to bring up that I think is a major department, and also one who I've dealt with it at Public Works and other departments. I think this government's got to take a step back. We got to look at our utility costs. This is something that rises each year. And like every taxpayer, departments have also trouble controlling how they're paying their utilities without reducing services to the taxpayers. One area, accreditation. The Nashville Fire Department became an accredited agency in 1999. Accreditation assisted the department in how to establish various policies and processes. However, the approximate annual cost of accreditation is one employee's salary of over $80,000, plus numerous staff supporting data to this section, a $2,200 annual accreditation fee, and if the fire department continues to follow this path, an outside agency must perform an on-site review at a cost of approximately $300,000. And you say, okay, what cities in Tennessee are accredited? Right now, Maryville, Kingsport, Alcor, and Nashville. What's important? Services, taxpayer, or something that we have the staff to continue to do without expending this cost. One other area I'd like to mention, it's totally unrelated, but it's something that I do think this council in Metro needs to take a hard look at putting back, is a bonus concept. I remember years ago as director of HR, we created the bonus concept. I look at a fire department and I see many people getting specialized certifications such as hazmat. And a good way to reward these people if they are getting these certifications and it's applied to their job and they're doing it daily is to offer a bonus. It's not a reoccurring expense like pay raises. It's a one-time expense and you can budget it. And then the following year, if it reduces or whatever, you're not obligated. It's something I do think is very important to take a look at putting back. I'm not too sure it's been taken away. I think it's a memorializing resolution. Rewarding, I can say it's a pleasure to now see members of this administration in the fire department, as well as the whole department, experience a change in philosophy and witness a shift in atmosphere comprised of a smiling staff, working together to not only be efficient, but proactive. Office doors, once shut tight, are now standing open, thereby opening lines of communication between employees. The staff is now embracing the idea of others and is welcoming them and their input. For once, I feel that this is a very tight department, really coming together. And I heard one of the assistant chiefs make a comment the other day. He said, you know, previously the doors were closed. I didn't really feel to be a part of the management team. I now feel very much a part. In closing, I want to thank each of you for your support. And I want to mention 3 individuals who I'd be remiss if I didn't. One, Danny Hunt. Danny recently retired fire marshal, and I want to thank Danny publicly for his support in the development of this city. I've been in meetings with Danny from Public Works Director and Fire Chief. Danny did one heck of a job. Larry Pooh in the back. In 2000, I asked Larry to step aside over EMS and take over the administration of the Nashville Fire Department. Larry did a fantastic job. I think he worked with Councilman Bednay on building the fire headquarters. Larry's taking the retirement, will be leaving the end of June, and I want to thank him for not only helping me, but for what he did with this city. And last is someone who doesn't even work in the fire department, but David Himes. David hits me close, because David and I stood together during the flood. And I just want to thank y'all.
Thank you, Director Lynch. Councilman Stein.
Thank you. Billy, there is no one on earth that says they are satisfied and then clarifies the issues better than you do. You are a role model for all department heads. Please, Alan, help us really understand the buyout, the impact on the department. You mentioned it's allowing you to do 3 new ambulances, but clearly you had a large number of folks. So can you outline that for us?
Well, we had 78 take the buyout, and what we were able to do, we will be able to take a look, and I'll use Larry Pooh as an example. Larry's retiring. We'll take Larry's money and reallocate it to probably add 1 or 2 lower level positions to put on the streets. We did this throughout. We were able to consolidate a lot of high-ranking classifications, do some consolidation. We went from 5 entities to 3. I even think we can go from 3 to 2 if other things take place. And then take that money savings and let's put the money back to what really means important, and that's beef up that academy, add more people to the streets to do the services that people expect us to do. Let's get ambulances on the street and get firemen working to help.
Thank you. I just want to say, for those of us that were necessarily maybe skeptical about you going back to the fire department, your hiring of Ms. Hager, who was such a help to us in the finance department, justified your move. It was a good one.
Well, you know, Councilman, I always learn, surround yourself with good people and your job becomes easy. And my job's been easy for many years. Mr. Zykos and I even worked together for a while.
Well, that was.
It's hard. I can't remember. I can't remember.
Thank
But
you, Councilman.
Mr. Zykos was a good employee. Made my job easy then. I don't remember most of that, though.
Councilman Tiger.
Thank you. Billy, let's talk about a couple of things that you brought up, the state of fire equipment, the need for ambulances, et cetera. Do you have specific recommendations?
Yeah, in 2002, when we consolidated fleet, the consolidation was a good concept, and I'm not going. And as I said, Stacy and Nancy Whittemore and them do fantastic. But what we did then, we took the buying of big equipment, and we took it from capital budget and moved it to 4%. Well, over the years, the 4% money has not increased in proportion to the cost of a lot of this big equipment, whether it's fire engines, knuckle-bung trucks, or whatever. We also had a replacement concept. They took a snapshot of what you had in your shop at the time, and they said, okay, this is what you're getting. Well, I was talking to Chief White back there, and Green Hills, he feels that we could get better coverage to many of the areas in Green Hills if we could get what's called a mini pumper. But because it's not in our snapshot under the replacement concept, we cannot obtain it. I'll go to Public Works, backdoor recycling. For 6 years, we've put a truck and a person, but it's not in our snapshot. So we got to take a look at moving how we purchase the big equipment. Then we got to look at the replacement concept, because times have changed in those 11 years.
Are there issues with the repairing on a timely basis also that, despite?
Well, I think they face the same thing we all did. The equipment has increased and the staff has decreased. And to me, I'll never throw any other department. They do. Stacy Wall, I've known Stacy for a long time. He's one heck of a good manager. And if given the tools, Stacy can handle this. And we just got to work and figure and tweak it a little better.
Okay, Leanne, let me ask you, there's some wild shifts in internal service fees here, fuel and radio and whatnot. Help me out with understanding exactly what's going on with, fuel being, or whatever category we put, fleet, I guess it says, going down in GSD and up in USD or vice versa and whatnot. But overall, it's a pretty significant decrease in internal service fees.
Yes, I spoke with.
Hold on a second. Is that mic on?
This one work? I received some information from General Services to help clarify this. For our building operations support charge, the overall square footage went down because we reallocated some space. The fuel usage went down in the GSD because of the way the vehicles were allocated. This is something that General Services did in their presentation, and that's how it affected us. For postal, the reason that charge is still low, they have some fund balance that they can use, and so they're not having to bill out the full cost. And you asked me about
Radio, I think, is
radio. We have an increased number of radios in our pool, and that's why our charge is going up.
due to more equipment on the street or more personnel carrying radios.
I can't specifically answer that piece today. I'll get that for you. I just know we have 83 more radios for fiscal year 14 than we did in 13.
Chief Lynch mentioned briefly the ambulance billing, outsourcing, and services. At one point, that was a huge uncollected number and whatnot. Do you have a feel as to where we stand on bill collection and how that system is working now?
We are currently working with EMSMC, which is the third-party vendor that handles our billing. We are experiencing the same challenges that many other entities are in dealing with the delay in receiving Medicare payments and servicing those who are not insured. But we are working with them to try and speed up the payments as much as we possibly can.
So is the trend for uncollectibles going up or down? And is the trend for, I'm assuming for length of time before payment, by your indication, is increasingly lengthening?
That is correct. It is getting larger
And we're going to have
and longer.
focus in on that area quite a bit this coming year.
I mean, certainly we're not going to refuse service for anybody, but if they do have insurance and whatnot, to keep the costs lower where we can pay for these services, we need to collect that money, obviously. So.
You know, another thing, and Chief White was talking to me about this, and actually I was talking to Representative Public Works, we need to take a look, and that's on some of the hazmat spills. We need to start tracking those, see what the cost is to fire, police, Public Works, and try to start getting some reimbursements from some of these companies that are coming through where this is becoming I don't want to say a regular occurrence, but it occurs quite a bit, and get some reimbursement from that end. And that's something we got to figure out how we want to need to track it through our special ops and through Public Works and police.
Okay, final question. Increase of 3 ambulances. Are we still underserved? Are there parts of the county that you would like to see coverage improved? And is there the short and long-term plan to increase that number even greater?
One thing we're doing now on employment is when you're hired in the Nashville Fire Department, you're going to go on a rotating basis, and you're going to work X amount of time on the ambulance, X amount of time in firefighting, and you'll continue that rotation till you vest in the pension, 10 years. By so doing, we're adding staff continually over on the ambulance side. We're going to try a couple things. One thing, when you look at a lot of our equipment, you look downtown, if you get a call right now for someone being sick or down, they send a lot of big equipment to go to answer that call first before the ambulance gets there. We're going to try going back to what they call fast cars and try to save some of the mileage, which that would put 2, maybe EMTs on this equipment to respond quicker. They're looking at the location of where the advanced life support engines are and what's the best way to handle it. But over time, if we continue with the rotation, we should have a regular continuing increase of providing ambulance service. We're going to try a different concept in one of the fire halls, using a kind of a combination fire ambulance in a hall run by a particular captain. So there's a lot of different concepts they're putting together. But it's like I've told them, this is probably a 3 or 4 year project. It's like a big elephant. Don't bite the whole thing at once. You'll choke to death. Take a little bit at a time, and let's change it. And the interesting part I like about the management team, they're working together because they understand where this city's moving. And they want to they never want you to go outside again. They would love to stay inside. We have the capability inside. We just got to understand, and they do. It's not just firefighting. It's a big department that has more components, and you got to start putting these pieces together. So to answer your question, yeah, we're going to expand the ambulances. We'll have to work with Fleet with the business model. We'll have to make sure the capital money or whatever is there. We got to. So our goal is yes.
Thank you, Councilman Tiger. Councilman Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Billy, so much for your care for the city. It really comes out of you, and we really appreciate you guys and the job you do. Had a couple quick questions. The first one, I had heard something about the uniform allowance. Where are you at on the uniform allowance? I'd heard maybe the firemen were only getting 200 instead of 400 or something. Do you feel like you have an adequate uniform allowance?
Well, we didn't do this, but in the past, when they cut the budget, they cut 2 things, utilities and uniforms. Well, you got to pay your utilities, and Leanne is working hard with existing money to be able to allocate as much as she can, especially to those in the streets. It's,
How much is it going to be per fireman, and does that cover even the cost of a good pair of boots and that sort of thing?
Well, one thing before we get to the cost, we need to take, and that's another thing that we have a look at, is our contractor to make sure what's allowed is what's needed. But to the cost, I'll let Leanne answer. Okay.
You're correct. In the current fiscal year, the individuals in the street actually receive $200 for their clothing allowance, which is significantly less than they had received in the past, but that's because of prior management decisions. We are committed that if this budget as proposed is passed, they will receive more than $200 per person. I can't give you the exact number yet. We'll have to work through all these changes, but we will push as much money to the individuals in the street as we can.
Okay, well, I mean, just communicate with us, I guess, too, if we needed to, put something on the wish list or that sort of thing. If you feel like it's inadequate, just let us know. Sounds like you're kind of shuffling things around, and that's fine, but I just want to make sure we have what we need to the folks out there. So, other questions? You had mentioned the capital and the ambulance. We've kind of gone around with the ambulances. Are you thinking maybe next year, that sort of thing, like a surge of capital for getting this state-of-the-art equipment? It sounds like more than just a couple ambulances. What's your timeline, or what are you thinking about with that?
Well, I think the big department's got to take a step back with general services, evaluate what the business model is, make a determination, can it be tweaked, and then look at the replacement concept they have in place. I don't drive that. I just know, I think general services want to. I know Public Works and Fire and other departments are wanting to work together to see what we best can do.
Okay, maybe I'm just putting it out there more than anything for next year. We'll kind of be taking a look at that. And I guess the last thing was, if you can kind of send us something on that bonus concept thing, since it existed in the past, and love to just take a look at like a one-sheeter or something like that.
Civil Service Department, the Mercer Pay Plan, they call it. I call it the John Kennedy, Randy Lovett, Jenna Smith, and other pay plan.
Okay.
The bonus concept was put in. It was successful, and then it kind of got a little, people got sidetracked with it, and I think one of the previous councilmen did a memorializing resolution to stop them. I just think if you took a step back and started evaluating how to best use it, it could be an effective tool, and it's not a reoccurring expense. And as you look at the new pay plan, if there is one, take a look at it. It's civil service policy.
Okay.
It's not a fire policy.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Davis. Councilman Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to follow up on what my colleagues were saying. On the clothing allowance, just what does that constitute? I mean, we talk about clothing allowance. What's expected of these people to do with, what do they buy? I mean, how does it work?
Currently, we work with Green Military,
Get
which
your
is
mic on. Your mic's not on.
Currently, we're working with Green Military. That is the vendor that was selected for the government to provide uniforms. And right now, I believe we have 5 uniforms that are approved in the department, and we are trying to reevaluate that to see, is that exactly what the staff need, so that we can direct those dollars to exactly what they need to do their job.
Is part of that maintenance or just buying the suits? Or?
It's to purchase the new clothing.
But-
Shoes, boots, shirts, pants, whatever.
So it's just for purchases, not maintenance and nothing like that?
It's not, yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hunt. Councilor Berry?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for being here, Mr. Lynch. And I'm not sure if this question should be directed at you or to Mr. Riebling, so I'll let you take a stab at it first, and then if we need to pass it over. Can you talk a little bit about how the increments are going to impact your budget?
It's going to make a lot of people happy.
Great, that's what we wanted to hear.
I'm not going to answer how. I think we'll figure it out. Mr. Riebling wants to add to it, but I think it'll make a lot of people happy. I think, I was kind of prejudiced to the firemen, policemen, to the people who clean up this city every night, and a bunch of others. And I think it's something good. And
So you'll go with it's a good thing?
oh yeah.
Okay.
I don't get one, if you want to give me one.
Thank you, Councilor Berry. Councilman Stein?
Very quickly, isn't this whole bonus notion something that ought to be part of whatever kind of study we're doing?
Yeah, and
so
it's in the civil service rule, and it needs to be a
Okay,
part
so,
of the pay study.
so in reality, just to clarify, this is probably not an issue for this budget. It's
No.
probably an issue for another budget, just so we know that as we're looking at prioritizing things, we need to get the study done before we move forward.
Right, I just had a little wish list myself.
No, I understand. I already gave you props for how you go about this.
Hey,
Thank you, Councilman Stein. Councilman Holloman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to follow up. There's been quite a bit of discussion about the tweaks or changes in fleet, but could you describe a little bit greater detail? You're saying you would anticipate that there would still be consolidated fleet, but there would basically be just more flexibility for some of the larger departments that have larger specialized equipment. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I think the consolidated fleet concept's a good idea, and especially it gives you bulk buying power when you look at this equipment. I just think the departments that have the big equipment need to take a step back with general services and work together to tweak the concept that was put in the policy in 2002. Maybe how we purchase it, what is the replacement policy in place? Does it need modifying? And move on. But yeah, the consolidated fleet, I believe in it. Does Stacy need mechanics? That's his call.
Right.
It's always good to have some that could handle a good milling machine, especially if you're going to pave a street. But yeah.
And do you see maybe more, instead of, I guess, line items for specialized equipment, more of a range of equipment so that you can adapt? Is that what I was understanding?
Yeah, I think times change, and the type of equipment change, and we need the ability to have that flexibility to do it.
Your example of a fast car I thought was a good one, because that's a concept that I assume we didn't have long ago, and your ability to maybe move into some of that equipment away from moving a large fire engine out to every scene.
Right.
Is that part of what you envision?
It is, and there's all different kind of concepts that they're reviewing, this management staff reviewing, and to have that flexibility, if needed, to be able to reach out and say, hey, this would be more efficient than this type of equipment.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Holloman. Councilman Dominic?
Thank you, Chairman Matthews. I had a quick question. I was going to follow up from Councilor Berry about the increments. Can you give us a number of employees that'll impact and the cost to the department? I know we just recently this week approved issuing those, but it's my understanding that those are going to come out of the existing budget of the department, so I'd like to know what the cost is.
We estimate that cost to be about $1.1 million.
Is that something that y'all can absorb with your current budget?
We will work with the administration to do what is needed to ensure that those employees receive their increments.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Dominic.
You did.
Council Lady Langston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to Director Lynch, you've worn so many hats in this city that you continue to do an excellent job, and we really, really appreciate the service that you perform on a daily basis. You really have metro government at heart.
Appreciate it.
I wanted to ask you, is there a flat rate for an ambulance ride, or does it depend on the distance, the seriousness? How do you determine a rate of what to charge a patient?
You want to answer? We'll have to get to you on that. I know it's driven by what Medicaid and Medicare pay, but we'll have to get back with you. I'm not sure.
Suppose they have private insurance like Blue Cross Blue Shield or Cigna.
Well,
We do. While I don't remember all the specific rates off the top of my head, I know we bill consistently regardless of what type of insurance you do or do not have.
That's what I wanted to know. Everyone
Yes,
is billed for an ambulance ride.
Yes.
Do you know how often has it gone up, let's say, since the beginning of this administration?
I do not, but I can get that information for you.
Okay. If you would send that to Ms. Waller for me, I would appreciate it.
Sure.
And again, the men and women of your department really, really do perform well. And my constituents, we are so happy that the new fire hall is going up on David Todd Boulevard, and we look forward to the ribbon cutting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Langster. Councilman Bedney.
I'm trying to do a good job because Councilman Stein tells me I don't ask questions that are budget related, so I'm going to try to do a good job.
You'll talk about Alaska.
Oh, that's off the record. So how much does it cost to open a new fire station? And what is the impact when we are on the border of the city, on the border of the county? Does it, you take into consideration if there is other fire stations outside the county? How does it impact the location? I'm asking you this because there are parts of my district that are further than 5 miles away from the closest fire station. And I was just wondering if there is any regional way to decide where to put a fire station, and then, what's the cost of adding a new one?
Well, the cost of buying, I believe, is run somewhere between $3 to $5 million, the new fire stations. You try to find property that Metro owns to reduce that cost. You try to identify where existing halls are and where expanded population. But like with everything, the costs continue to go up. I mean, just look downtown. With what's going on downtown, we know Station 2 of the old headquarters is probably going to have to be evaluated. Now, does Station 2, with the increase at Germantown and the Gulch, what will need to take place, if anything? We have 5s and 9s located up by Howard Complex. So we try to look at where the population is, where existing halls, but also down the road, as population shifts, you're going to have to look at where you're locating the halls and try to find, if you want to be cost efficient, try to find Metro property that you can utilize. I believe you need 3 to 5 acres of land for most fire halls. And, it's like with anything, we're going to have to modify. That's one of the areas I say we have to get on top of is our facilities and develop long 5 and 10-year plans. And we don't have them right now, and we need to.
So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is when you have a part of the city that is too close to the county line, you maybe don't want to put a fire station just on the county line because then you are only serving half the county and then you're serving the following county. So is there any region?
We can't serve the following county. I mean, we just service Davidson County.
Okay.
We're not going to go outside the county, nor is outside the county going to come help us probably unless it's a dire emergency and we have certain relationships. But, you look at the population and you try to get them and spread them out where they got ample population but ample distance so that we can respond in appropriate time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Bedney. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair Matthews. I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the many constituents in Southeast Davidson County for our new Fire Hall in Fire Hall 33, as well as Fire Hall 35. So I just wanted to put that out there for them. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. And seeing no other council members in queue, I'll declare. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Pardue.
I thought I was going to sleep through it, Billy. Back to the clothing allowance, I just got a question on what y'all authorized for them to buy down at Green's. There's a T-shirt that I seen personally the other day that I hope's not on your list. It said, God made firemen so police could have a hero. So, yeah, we're not going. Council ain't going to pay for that.
Can you take a snapshot of that with your iPhone and send it to me?
I don't know how.
Send that one to me. I love it.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Pardue. Now
we're not paying for that one. I don't blame.
This concludes your department budget hearing, Mr. Lynch. I'd like to thank you and the rest of the Nashville Fire Department for your service to our city. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.